Welcome to Yahoo Sports Daily. It's a Friday edition, and oh my God, shot through the heart is exactly what happened. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz. We got a lot to get into, and we start with the Eastern Conference Finals. Josh Hart out here just absolutely having a night for the ages in the Garden that will ensure that he doesn't have to pay for a slice of pizza in Manhattan for a decade. Hart drops a postseason career-high 26 points, 4 boards, 7 assists, 2 steals, 5 threes. Oh my God, what a night. And the Knicks breeze their way to a 2-0 lead. There has to be panic in Cleveland because Cleveland seemed to say, hey, we'll let Hart do whatever he wants. And then Hart did, Caroline, ... whatever he wanted.
There should be panic in Cleveland. This series is over, Fitz. I said it after game one because I just don't believe that you can come back from blowing a 20-plus point lead in the second half on the road in the Eastern Conference Finals. And that felt even more like it was the case last night. Because exactly what you just said. It was obvious last night that Kenny Atkinson and the Cavaliers' game plan was we will not let Jalen Brunson beat us again. So if Josh Hart goes out there and absolutely goes off and he beats us, then hat tip to you, bravo to you, you are the better team. And that's exactly what happened. Because I think that was the right game approach, right? Was Jalen Brunson absolutely slices and dices you in the second half. He goes off for 39 points in game one. I think that's the right game two adjustment. We are going to sell out to stop Jalen Brunson. And it worked. It worked for the most part. He had, 2 points in the first quarter, even the first half? I mean, Jalen Brunson ended up with 19 points, which is not anything to scoff at, but that's also not like a gaudy stat line that we're accustomed to from Jalen Brunson, especially going 1 of 7 from 3. So if I told you, Fitzy, that Jalen Brunson was 1 of 7 from 3, that he had 19 points on the night and was missing a bunch of shots in the first half, if I told you, Fitzy, that James Harden had 18 points and not a single turnover, what would you think? I would probably think that's a Cavs win. You're getting production from James Harden. He's not turning the ball over. Jalen Brunson only had 19 points. That's all the recipe of success for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And you add on top of the fact that Donovan Mitchell dropped 26 and he had a pretty good night. But no, even on a night where they keep Captain Clutch in check, Josh Hart goes off. OG Anunoby looks like he is back to getting as close to 100% as I guess you can possibly be at this point in the season in the Eastern Conference Finals. Karl Anthony Towns, 18 points, 13 boards. Mikal Bridges shooting on all cylinders. So it's fine if the Cavs want to keep Jalen Brunson in check. You can do that. But when Josh Hart beats you, you don't come back from that. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is over for the Cavs.
I was watching SportsCenter this morning, and Brian Windhorst said something that I think is really key. He said, and he uses his words carefully, he said on SportsCenter, I can report that leaving Josh Hart open was the strategy. So for everybody that says today, oh my God, Cleveland's defense was horrific, understand that they came into this game with an actual approach of, we will do whatever it takes to shut down everybody else, and if that means that Josh Hart's wide open, we'll live and die with whatever that result is. The problem that they didn't account for is the fact that Jalen Brunson is so selfless as a superstar that he saw that, understood that, and that the Knicks were more than comfortable rotating the ball to Hart and letting him take advantage of those opportunities. I think it speaks to the championship culture that is currently in that locker room, that you have a bunch of selfless guys that aren't trying to take the game over. They're trying to take whatever the defense gives you, and eventually they'll give you the game. That's a football adage that we saw last night in an NBA game. And it speaks to what makes these Knicks, I think, scarier and scarier and scarier as this playoff run goes on. You want to go small, they'll beat you small. You want to go big, they'll beat you big. You want to make them rotate the ball all around, they'll do that. You need Karl Anthony Towns to beat you one night, they'll do that. You need Brunson to go off and be the one-man superstar some nights, he'll do that. You need Josh Hart to step up some nights, they'll do that. Championship teams can beat you a million ways. How often do we talk about this? Like, one of the things that I really judge every team by is if this, then that. If your A plan isn't working, what's your B plan? And what the Knicks are showing us is that they have an A plan a B plan, a C plan, and there's a selflessness to this entire team that's absolutely incredible. Hart has been asked about his role and asked about being willing to take lesser role as a star, and his answer was, I'm not a star. Jalen Brunson comes out and gives up the ball over and over and over again. And in fact, early in the game, actually kind of chewed into Hart a little bit for not taking an open look before all of this started, because Brunson understood, you're the key. Like, that speaks to a togetherness, a specialness. This team is bonding in a way that we never could have seen coming. I stand by how tough we were on the Knicks in February because they looked like they deserved it. But right now, you have to crumple all that up and say, this playoff basketball team, this version of the Knicks, man, they look like they are willing to do whatever it takes, big or small, in every single game. And they'll just find a way to beat you. And now they're taking on a Cavs team that's played 16 games in 34 days. They're taking on a Cavs team that I think has physical and mental fatigue. They're taking on a Cavs team that is just looking around, and they don't have an answer, because every time the Cavs think that they've walked into the test with the cheat code, they just get outsmarted by a better team, a more talented team, a deeper team with better superstars, and a better head coach. The Knicks are winning this because they're outdoing the Cavs in every single category. It's a little bit about the Cavs, but Caroline, this is a lot about the Knicks to me.
It feels more about the Knicks. I do want to get to the Cavs side of it in just a moment. But to your point, the selflessness of this team, that's a trickle-down effect from Jalen Brunson. I mean, you just mentioned it. Anytime praise gets heaped upon him, he pushes it right back. Not out of just humility, but because that's just how he's wired. At least that's how it feels. And I think that's really hard to fake and really hard to be phony whenever you are in front of the media, as much as Jalen Brunson is. I think that's just who he is and how he rolls. I'm like, you said 14 assists last night. Coming off of a 40-point game where all of the spotlight was on Jalen Brunson, he looked at it and was like, look, this isn't going to be my night in terms of scoring, but this can be my night if I can continue to move the ball around. That's selflessness. This Knicks team just does everything right. Defensively, they are so sound. I mean, the fact that Cleveland went to the line 32 times and couldn't even breach 100 points is a testament to this Knicks defense. They've been rebounding machines really for a majority of the season, and that hasn't tapered off at all. But the difference between this Knicks team now that we are seeing today versus this Knicks team that maybe we saw in January or February is the offensive explosiveness, is the fact that they can get offensive production up and down the lineup. Of course, you're going to get it from Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson just scores. That is just who he is. But it's Mikal Bridges playing closer to his ceiling than maybe we've seen previously, or maybe we saw in that Hawk series at the beginning of the series. We're seeing it from Karl-Anthony Towns. We're seeing it from Josh Hart. We're seeing it off the bench as well. They are just firing on all cylinders. But on the Cavs side of things, I think this series is over. Not because I think it's going to be a sweep, because I don't think it's going to be a sweep. This Cavs team has shown incredible resilience all playoffs long. I mean, Donovan Mitchell talked about it last night in his post-game press conference. He said, we've been in 2 Game 7s so far in this postseason. Like, we are not backing down without a fight. And I do believe that. First of all, 22 of 32 from the free throw line, unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. You just missed 10 gimmies right there. Now, you make all of those free throws, you still lose in the scheme of this game, but maybe things look a little bit different. So going 22 of 32, 69% from the free throw line, not good enough. Those are just easy, fundamental, silly points that you're missing out on. The second thing is, I don't understand why Sam Merrill was in the game for 23 minutes last night. My biggest takeaway, or one of my biggest takeaways from these first 2 games, is the Cavs are not going to out-offense the Knicks. They are not going to outscore the Knicks. They have to be better defensively. They cannot go toe-to-toe with the depth of scoring that New York has. So Sam Merrill being in the game for 23 minutes and going 0 of 7 from 3 isn't going to cut it. We saw Jalen Tyson in the game for 10 minutes last night, and in 10 minutes, he had 3 rebounds. If you want to up your defensive tenacity, your physicality, Jalen Tyson is going to do that for you. So Jalen Tyson needs more minutes if the Cavs want a swinging chance in this series, or at least to make this series interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, at Kenny Atkinson, we need to get our legs under us, quite honestly. You're talking about some of the decisions on who's playing when. We're looking at a game one that saw Atkinson not use his timeouts in a way that had some, I think Jay Will was the one that called it coaching malpractice. And now last night, I'm watching a coach's decision that makes sense to leave Josh Hart open, but then they never really adapted to the fact that Josh Hart was open. I got to trust that Kenny Atkinson has a cheat code somewhere, and I don't know what that cheat code is. I think the most staggering number when you talk about what we saw last night is the assists, just the number of assists. Last night, Cleveland had a total of 15 assists in the game. 15, all right? New York had 32, double the assists. That tells you just about ball movement. That tells you about making guys run around. It tells you about activeness on offense and defense. It tells you so much. I mean, frankly, when you're just running ISO ball, everybody just walks around, hold the ball, going to run around a little bit. I'm going to try to do something with it. That feels like the creativity that we get in Cleveland's offense. I don't know how you win that way in this series. The crowd in the Garden was chanting Knicks in 4, which is exactly what I expect. Now, the cliche that every single person tells you all the time is that it's not really a series until you lose at home. So Cleveland could certainly change the way all of us feel by doing the impossible at home. But I can't find the turbo button power left in the Cavs engine to make that happen. To be clear, this is not about a hangover effect from a 22-point downfall, whatever you want to call that, the collapse in game one. Because the first half of this game between the Cavs and Knicks last night was a competitive one. There was no lingering effect from the fact that they melted down. This was the opposite of a lingering effect. This was a team that in the second half just didn't have any juice left in the tank, and the team in the second half didn't have any answers, and a team in the second half that once the game got to double digits just didn't have any fight left in them. They just don't have the ability to counterpunch. And I hear this where everybody says, hey, we're going to keep fighting. We've been in game sevens before. Fine, but a tired boxer loses all the time. I don't know if the Cavs, even 100% of the Cavs, can compete with 100% of the Knicks, but I know for damn sure 70% of the Cavs can't compete against 100% of the Knicks. So while I don't think that, this series, I caution to call it a sweep. You feel like there's going to be some letdown somewhere. I have a hard time finding New York getting 4 wins out of the next, 6 games. That feels like impossible at this time. That feels like a mountain that the Knicks are not capable of climbing.
I mean, to your point, I don't think 70% of anybody beats 100% of the Knicks. I don't think 70% of the Oklahoma City Thunder or the Spurs beats this Knicks team. And that's why I think the door is open that's the path for the Knicks to win a championship. They close this one out in 4 or 5, and San Antonio and Oklahoma City just continue to beat up on each other. And to your point, I think this series is over because I don't think the Cavs can win a game on the road. They have to win a game on the road in order to win this series. They had 1-1. Like in game 1, they had that game 1, and they totally and completely just peed in their pants and tucked their tail between their legs, and they blew it. I don't see this Cavs team winning 4 of the next 5 games. Now, I don't think this is going to be a sweep, because I think that the Cavs are going to get incredible momentum going back home. The game will probably be called differently back home. They made adjustments from game 1 to game 2. And look, they didn't work, but they still have something left in their bag. So I absolutely think the Cavs are going to be able to win at least 1 game at home, if not even both games at home, and tie the series up. But even if the series gets tied, Fitzy, I wouldn't get overly concerned. Of course, it depends on how the games go and injuries, knock on wood. You never wish that on anybody. But just in a vacuum, if the series does become 2-2 and all things go chalk, I still wouldn't be overly concerned if I'm a Knicks fan. Because you've seen how the Cavs just totally and completely collapse and choke in the Garden. I don't see them winning a single game on the road.
The Knicks have lost 2 games in the playoffs. Both of those games were 1-point losses. The Knicks have now won 9 straight in the playoffs. And by point differential, they have the largest point differential we've seen in a 9-game win streak, regular season or playoffs, in over a decade in the NBA. They're not just beating teams, they're slaughtering teams. And the Cavs are the most recent to get slaughtered. That's not the only big action, by the way, as we'll continue to break down basketball over the course of the weekend. Don't forget The IFL Cup is right here. It's on the line Sunday night. I'll be on the sidelines running around on the field. The Rattlers take on the Vegas Nighthawks, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. It all goes down on the Yahoo Sports Network. You can watch it wherever you're watching this right now and across the Yahoo Sports Network. Don't go anywhere. Speaking of football, Matt Stafford making news for a massive contract. My guy got paid. We'll tell you what it means in LA.
Right back to work. TJ Edwards and Paxton DeLorette going blow for blow. Edwards. Oh, what a blitz pickup. Edwards to the end zone, and that is another touchdown. Third down. DeLorette throwing, coming back to make a great catch. Thomas Owens, the best receiver in the history of the franchise, just added another highlight to the reel.
I think from the Raptors, what did they learn here? They learned like they're in a great spot. And then Scotty Barnes, welcome. You have achieved stardom. Like that's what this series was for Scotty Barnes. He became a star. The dude hit clutch bucket after clutch bucket, made big plays as a playmaker as well. He was too big or too quick, depending on the guy he was being defended by. He was incredible.
The UFC has just given me so much, and I've met so many great fans around the world, different states and things like that, and I'm just blessed. And like I said, I'm glass half full all the time. Even when things are not going my way, I find a way to look at the bright side. I'm just happy to be here, man, and one fight at a time. When it's all said and done, I would love to have my last dance with the UFC.
Myler gets the snap. Myler extends the play, throws on the run, finds Bruce. Bruce lowers his head, reaches for the end zone and scores. Great pass by Myler, better effort by Arlen Bruce. And this Arizona offense is grooving. They retake the lead with 9 seconds left in the half.
NFL MVP Matthew Stafford and the Rams are in agreement on a one-year, $55 million extension worth up to $60 million with incentives, a little extra $5 million for play money. That, according to Adam Schefter. Stafford now is a contract that's 2 years with up to $105 million remaining on it. This after they spent their draft equity on a quarterback of the future. Caroline, sounds pretty clear that the Rams are telling us they're all in on the next 2 years, and they're going to make sure that over the course of the next 2 years, they develop their young quarterback to be what they hope would be the heir apparent in what would be his third year in the NFL.
I will continue to say I think this is the absolute best situation for any young quarterback that Ty Simpson is in. I mean, you get drafted in the first round, so you get first round money. You get drafted to the Rams, a legitimate Super Bowl contender, coached by one of the most brilliant offensive minds in the game, maybe even that we have ever seen, dare I say. And you also get the opportunity, when he was drafted, at least 1 year and now 2 years, to sit the bench and learn and be a sponge, because Ty Simpson's not ready. Like, it doesn't take somebody, that's been coaching football for decades to recognize that a guy who's attempted 550 passes in college is maybe not ready for the NFL. When you're looking at guys that come out of school with over 2,000 pass attempts in 4 to 5 years in college. Ty Simpson's been a starter for 1 year at Alabama. So you might think, oh, well, this isn't fair to Ty Simpson. He's going to have to ride the bench for another year. No, this is probably the best situation for his development. This is also the best situation, I think, for the Rams. $55 million sounds like a really big and gaudy number. I do wonder what the guarantees are, because I wouldn't be surprised if it was more of like a 1 year, $40 million deal that maybe aligns a little bit more to the current quarterback market. But I digress. This is the best situation for the Rams, because They know they have their guy, at least in the 2026 season. And then in the 2027 season, you can start to evaluate what the best path forward is for Ty Simpson. Maybe the best path forward in 2027 is Matthew Stafford starts to wean back a little bit. Ty Simpson starts to get a little bit more usage. So in 2027, you're not just throwing Ty Simpson to the Wolves. Instead, you can be brought along a little bit longer with a league MVP and a Super Bowl winning quarterback who has 15 years of experience. I think this is best case scenario, I think, for everyone involved, including Matthew Stafford's bank account.
100% on Matthew Stafford's bank account. And look, for Ty Simpson, he's 23 right now, which he'll be 25, and he'll turn 26 in his first season, presumably as a starter. He'll also be in year 3. They'll have a couple of years to figure out what they want to do with this 5th year. Like, all of this makes sense for drafting a quarterback in the first round. I love every ounce of it. Why not take that chance? Now is when everybody says, oh, this ensures that the Rams are the Super Bowl favorite going into the season. And I just want to quietly remind everybody that there's a team called the Seattle Seahawks that are the defending Super Bowl champions that did beat the Rams, that did put themselves in a situation to be able to get to the Super Bowl. Like, I hear everybody when we want to go over the moon with Matthew Stafford coming back. Sorry, Matthew. Matthew Stafford coming back means that this Rams team is poised for at least 1, maybe 2 Super Bowls. I just think the Seahawks would like a word. I'm going to plant a Seahawks flag on this show between now and the season of at least giving them the same benefit of the doubt we give every other defending champion. I know they lost Kenneth Walker. I know they lost Clint Kubiak. Obviously, I know that I have a Raiders helmet behind me. I understand the losses for this organization. I just don't think we're giving the Seahawks the same level of benefit of the doubt we give most defending champions. So this does cement the fact that the Rams have stability, and we do understand that the Rams will be one of the best teams in the NFL. That's the expectation, barring injury for the next couple of years. But Caroline, I'm not going to anoint the Rams while the Seahawks are still out here defending Super Bowl champions, defending. They've beaten this team. So I don't know what we're doing.
You know what we're doing. It's because we are all, just gluttonous for quarterbacks. We are all hungry for offense because our recent Super Bowl champions have come from Patrick Mahomes, first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen play the sport. Jalen Hurts in the Philadelphia Eagles. Tom Brady. Like, we have seen recent Super Bowl champions with superstar quarterbacks that play in big-time markets. Sam Darnold isn't really that sexy of a name. A defensive Super Bowl isn't really, that exciting for the average fan. But Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay in Los Angeles, now that's sexy. So I think that's why we're not giving the Seahawks the same benefit of the doubt, is because it's just not as marketable to sell defense in a quarterback that we all kind of already kicked to the curb in our minds. It's not fair. It's not right. Because the Seahawks, time after time after time, have proven to us how worthy of a Super Bowl champion they were. I mean, Mike Macdonald outclassed Sean McVay not once, but twice, including in one of the biggest games of the second biggest game of the season, in the NFC Championship game. They got past Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers. They played in the deepest and most competitive division in the National Football League, yet we're still not giving them the benefit of the doubt. And it's really, I think, just because of the quarterbacks. But you bring up the Seattle Seahawks, I will say, although I don't love the vibes in Philly, I don't think Philly's necessarily going anywhere. I think the Chicago Bears took a massive leap forward last year. And I think that yet another year with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, I think that the Bears aren't really going anywhere either. The 49ers aren't necessarily going anywhere. I think the Detroit Lions are going to get healthy and be right back into the Super Bowl conversation. So while I think the Rams to the Super Bowl is frankly a pretty safe bet and a bet that I would feel comfortable making, it's not just like the Rams can limp into the NFC Championship game. No. This is a deep NFC that I think is going to get even more competitive this season.
If Mike Macdonald is the coach that we think he is, we are set for what I hope is a decade of McVay versus Macdonald over and over and over again. I'm just not going to give McVay all of the flowers when Macdonald just put a big old fancy ring on his hand. So plenty of drama to come in the NFC West. We do have some other news in the NFL, by the way, sort of a quiet piece of news. I would call this maybe a news dump because Giants fans, I'm not sure how you feel about this. Joe Shane, right before Giants fans, many of whom are based in New York, were getting ready to watch a game in Madison Square Garden. They find out that the Giants and Joe Shane have agreed to terms on a multi-year extension to keep him working with John Harbaugh for years to come. The deal has been signed after a successful offseason, including the work during the NFL draft. Shane is rewarded with the new deal. The same person that we do have on camera deciding that he's going to let one of the best players go sign with the division. I just think, it's worth reminding everybody that Joe Shane is a puppet, a pawn in the game of whatever they're doing in New York. But congratulations to him for getting a new contract.
New York sports fans are like, the Knicks are going to the NBA Finals, probably. Nothing can hurt me now. And then Joe Shane gets an extension. It's like, seriously, way to really take the wind out of our sails. Joe Shane is like a Chanel bag. He's a very expensive accessory. That's exactly how I view him. I don't view Joe Shane as anybody who's calling the shots in New York. I don't view Joe Shane as somebody who has final say or, veto power over roster construction or any of the goings on in the front office in New York. That's John Harbaugh. That's why you hire John Harbaugh. That's why you bring in a coach with as much skins on the wall as John Harbaugh does. I think Joe Shane is kind of a dum-dum. And I think Joe Shane is just happy to be there. So if Joe Shane is going to be somebody who holds this role of general manager and is okay with bending the knee to John Harbaugh and John Harbaugh being the one that really calls the shots, then why not keep him around? Sure, he's expensive and sure, a lot of people make fun of him, maybe rightfully so. But if he is just somebody that's willing to stay out of the way and let John Harbaugh cook, fine, keep him around.
Yeah, that is the best analogy I've ever heard. All I would say is that Harbaugh, when you go to those stores, they have armed guards outside that keep you from getting in. You have to do a credit check in some of them before you're allowed to go in and shop in fancy malls. We just experienced that at American Dream. I think that's Harbaugh in this situation. He's just out there like, hey, don't mess with my guy. Don't come at you. These are my fancy accessories, not yours. So we'll see what it means for the Giants. The Giants, more disturbing news, though, that they're trying to deal with right now. Adam Schefter this morning, tweeting out just over an hour ago, the Giants don't know when star wide receiver Malik Nabers will be back from what Coach John Harbaugh said Thursday was, quote, not a simple knee injury. In fact, ESPN and Jordan Raanan right now are reporting that the Giants went from hopeful that Malik would be available for training camp to hopeful he might be available for week 1. So whatever this is with Malik Nabers is taking more time than the team expected, more time than doctors expected, more time than media expected. And we're all just sitting here for one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, if he's healthy, wondering what this Giants offense is going to do and what version of Malik they're going to get back. So this is obviously catastrophic news. As we sit right now, if it doesn't work out the right way, it changes the entire outcome of the Giants season to me.
This is devastating. And I hope it's as simple as maybe Malik Nabers won't be available for training camp, or at least the beginning of training camp, but he's able to start ramping up by the beginning of the season. But that's wishful thinking and hopeful thinking. And based on all reporting, that might not be in the realm of possibility. Because Malik Nabers' availability, I think, impacts everything. It impacts the way that we evaluate Jackson Dart. Because a number one, speedy, catch anything that comes his way wide receiver is a young quarterback's best friend. John Harbaugh's first year. How will we evaluate his first year without Malik Nabers and without a lethal weapon offensively? And let's not forget, Cam Scadaboo is ramping up from injury as well. So for a Giants team that has felt like it had all of the good vibes, a Giants team that fans had really high hopes for, and look, rightfully so. Bring in John Harbaugh. It's a new regime. All this young talent. We feel like we have our quarterback of the future. You can't hit that ceiling if you don't have Malik Nabers on the field.
Well, and Malik Nabers is going to have to learn a new offense that will require some new timing, that will require new concepts. Certainly, he is a pro's pro. There's no doubt about it. But part of the way that we're going to judge this team isn't just from Malik Nabers. It's the growth and development we expect this year from Jackson Dart. You can never tell me that a young quarterback doesn't look better, doesn't look like he's growing more, doesn't look like his development is going better if he has a Malik Neighbors on the field. So all eyes will be on what this means for the Giants, who have hopes of a massive leap forward this offseason, but that's going to be much tougher if Malik Neighbors isn't on the field and 100% of himself in week 1. More to come in the NFL. We've got a couple of NFL superstars joining us over the course of today's show, but the superstar action continues next in the NBA. Tom Haberstroh going to join us next. We'll get his thoughts on Cleveland's approach in these Eastern Conference Finals.
Quarterback, you want those guys that just go down hard or they chase the back.
Here comes Pius once again, gets through. The ball is hauled in off the dasher board by Marlon Cook Jr. A full-grown man reception there at the 15-yard line. Atkinson's two in motion. He'll run behind the block, now throw back to Marlon Cook Jr., and the ball's caught for a touchdown.
But I'm not going to lie, I was totally shocked. I was shocked that they actually pulled the trigger. I wondered if they would, again, still try to build around a huge talent in the WNBA, who's a huge star, one of the most popular players in the league, regardless of what you think about her play. They're going to be able to move games to State Farm Arena where the Hawks play now because of the Angel Reese effect. And I think she wanted an organization that had a clear vision of the future, and she gets that in Atlanta.
I loved Acuff all year. I mean, what an amazing college player.
Oh, yeah.
It's just his prototype in the NBA concerns me. But Acuff to me is the one that says, is he as good as Trae Young offensively? Probably not. Is he as bad defensively as Trae Young? Probably. And
you hope not.
There's a question about how playable Trae Young is, even with the skill set that he has.
There's the toss to Kerrigan. He is destroyed at the 2-yard line.
Yeah, and a great effort by Carson Taylor, defensive end. He makes Kerrigan really have to get wide here, and then good pursuit by the rest of the defense.
Arizona down by 3. Snap to Myler. There's the give to Clark. Open space, hurdles a defender, and he's tackled at the 17.
The New York Knicks have taken a commanding 2-0 Eastern Conference Finals lead after beating Cleveland in a game that I'm not even sure the final score indicated how in control they were. This after a game where they came back in historic fashion in Game 1. And I'm looking at their ability, Caroline, to move the ball and to move the primary scorer and to figure out how to take advantage of whatever you're doing. And I'm wondering if maybe we need to start recalibrating our conversation, because you and I have said many times the expectation is make it to the finals. That's what the Knicks have told us. I don't know right now, given the historic way that this team is playing, that we can absolutely say with certainty that they don't have a shot at winning the whole damn thing. This Knicks team is so far ahead of where I thought they would be in these playoffs. I'm not sure we should be so comfortable just presuming that the winner of OKC San Antonio is surefire going to be our NBA champion.
We shouldn't, and I think that would be irresponsible, especially because the first couple of games of the Western Conference Finals have been absolutely physical and bruising and rough and tough, and it looks like that's how the rest of the series is going to go. And if you look at the injury report for tonight's game, it reads like a Harry Potter novel. I mean, how many guys are questionable moving forward, in at least in this game? And who knows for the rest of the series? So that's one angle of it. It's a wonderful opportunity for the Knicks. And now, look, we're only 2 games in. We have plenty of basketball left to be played. Knock on wood. Plenty of, potentially injuries or physicality to get ratcheted up in this series. But for right now, the Knicks feel like, their ice baths aren't nearly as necessary as it is for the Spurs and for the Oklahoma City Thunder. So that's one avenue, is the Knicks go into the NBA Finals fresh and healthy with a lot of depth there, where OKC or San Antonio just isn't. Where I struggle, though, because I think that's a real thing. Where I struggle, who on this Knicks squad can keep Wemby in check? Who on this Knicks squad can keep SGA or Chet in check. The Knicks have a lot of depth, and they got good scoring off of their bench yesterday. They don't have OKC depth because OKC's been without J-Dub for a decent bit of the season. J-Dub's played, what, like 30, 35 games, somewhere in the 30 range. They probably won't have him tonight. And I'm not overly concerned for OKC because they can, better than any other team in the NBA, weather the storm of injuries because it's just next man up. We've seen it all season long. We've seen it over the last 2 years. So I just don't know and why I would right now favor the winner of the West over the winner of the East, most likely the Knicks, is because I don't know who's stopping Wemby and I don't know who can match the depth of OKC. And San Antonio, for that matter. San Antonio's got a heck of a lot of depth.
That's why I think it's funny that the Madison Square Garden crowd has been chanting, "We want Wemby," after these games.
Okay.
And I get that. I think everybody's so bored with OKC that it's like, we want Wemby. We want to take on the 87,000-foot tall freak that is Victor Wembanyama, and we want to take him down as they chant, "We want Wemby." That's asking a lot of Karl Anthony Towns, right? Because that's going to be Cat. Cat's going to have to, who's going to make the all-defensive team, I'm sure. But Cat's going to have to go out and have the series of a lifetime, and you're going to have depth. Something that we've talked a little bit about in these conference finals that we have right now in the West is that if the refs choose to call everything that's happening against Wemby, your depth is going to be tested on who's guarding him. Like the amount they're going to ask of that man right there in a series against the Spurs is absolutely huge. I would rather have Cat be able to just take on the entire middle of this OKC defense. Not that, Holmgren and Hartenstein don't create some issues and have size. That's fine. Wemby's just a different Cat. No pun intended. I want Karl Anthony Towns to have enough gas to be able to do something on the offensive side of the glass too. I want him to be able to be a contributor both ways. So I think the answer of OKC feels like it's a little bit better. But the thought of Wemby in the Garden against the Knicks for the NBA Finals, like we've talked a lot about what is that moment that makes you transcend, that you suddenly become pop culture. You suddenly become a host on Saturday Night Live. You suddenly become a late night talk show guest. You suddenly become somebody that, the daytime, the Today Show is booking you, the midday talk shows that I don't even know which ones exist. This generation's Ellen is calling you to come on. You beat the Knicks in the Garden for an NBA championship, and Wemby becomes a household name to people that have never watched a second of basketball, right? Like that's the transcendent moment. I want Wemby versus the Knicks because I think it transcends just the sport of basketball. That being said, if I'm the Knicks, I don't know that I want to take on what Wemby's going to do to both sides, on both sides. It just creates so much fear at the rim. You watch grown men, grown NBA players that suddenly have just a little hesitation when they get anywhere near the lane because Wemby is standing there with an arm in the air. I don't want any of that smoke. If I'm Knicks fans, I'd much rather take on OKC as deep as they are because this is a banged up, just injured all over the place OKC team. I'd rather have that version than have Wemby.
Ooh, careful what you wish for. And I think this generation's version of Ellen is probably the Jennifer Hudson show. Right?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Right. Or maybe Drew Barrymore's show. I could see Wemby going down the Spirit Tunnel, though. I don't know what his song would be.
Oh,
but
which show is it that has the Spirit Tunnel?
Jennifer Hudson show.
Okay, I did. I only know the Spirit Tunnel. I have no idea because I never see the host. I just see the guest walking down. Like hey, Jennifer Hudson show. This is a fail in the way that you do your show. Like I don't know what show it is. I just know the tunnel and the bad dancing. So Jennifer Hudson should get on in there with the celeb, and then I'd know.
There is some bad dancing in the Spirit Tunnel, but it's all in good fun of the Spirit Tunnel. But I feel like they would have to find a new tunnel. Like they would have to bring Wemby in the Spirit Tunnel from outside. Because there's no way Wemby is fitting in that hallway. So they're just going to have to rethink all of these things. But to your point, Wemby is a superstar that has kind of superseded the league, that I could see him hilariously sitting at the desk at Weekend Update on SNL or walking through the Spirit Tunnel or whatever it is, becoming not just a basketball phenomenon, but a pop culture phenomenon. But you say you'd rather have OKC. Look, that's a banged up team. I get it. I know. But they can withstand injuries far more than any other team in the NBA. It is breaking my brain thinking about how Oklahoma City can just, SGA's on the bench, doesn't matter. J-Dub's on the bench, doesn't matter. IHeart's on the bench, doesn't matter. they can just get through it. They can just look to somebody else and say, okay, you're going to drop 30 tonight. Cool. You good with that? Awesome. Cool. Great. Thanks. Bye. Why I would rather play San Antonio. And I know that is really, really, I would approach with caution saying I would rather play Wemby because that is just somebody that you do not stop. You hope that you can just limit him. This is still a very young and inexperienced Spurs team. Like, the Spurs are doing something that teams just don't do. You don't have a young team that's experiencing their first postseason experience together as a unit for the first time ever and get to the Western Conference Finals. It doesn't happen like that. Normally, these young teams face a more veteran team or a team that's been there before, and they get knocked out, and then they go home, and it's devastating, and they come back next year, and they're better. That's how that normally goes. The Spurs have superseded everything that we feel like we know about young teams, but they're still a young team. This is not a young Knicks team. This is not a Knicks team that's experiencing this stage for the first time. So if I had to choose today, like if the Knicks are sitting back, popping their legs up, eating a bowl of Cheetos while the Western Conference Finals goes toe-to-toe and starts punching each other in the face, and they got to choose their own adventure, I very well might just say, hey, I'm going to sign up with having to deal with Victor Wembanyama because we will take our experience over their inexperience.
You are right. It is the youngest starting five we've ever seen in a conference finals, that being the San Antonio Spurs. So they absolutely trotted out youth, and that would obviously mean they're trotting out youth into the championship if they're able to get to the NBA Finals. In other NBA news, you've got teams that are already out there, teams that are trying to get there. We know that there's been a ton of change in Dallas. Masai Ujiri said that the Mavs needed a clean slate when discussing his decision to fire Jason Kidd. How much pressure do we feel like Caroline is on Masai in this situation to get it right for Cooper Flag? It's clear he looked around and said anybody that was in this organization or around this organization for the parting of ways with Luka, we just need a clean slate. It's almost like a divorce when you look around and you say, I don't want our group friends anymore. I just want new friends all together with no drama. I feel like that's what Masai Ujiri is doing. But there is a golden star, a flag for this team, pun intended, in Cooper Flag that absolutely has to be honored in this process. It feels to me like there's a ton of pressure on Ujiri to get it right.
It's everything. Like, I think Masai Ujiri's job is at stake for this hire. This is why he was hired. This is everything. This is the job. Like, this is your number one prerogative. 1A, find the right coach. Because firing Jason Kidd after Cooper Flag's rookie season, it's not the end of the world. Superstars have coaches that are fired after 1 year all the time. But it is mission critical to get this second hire right. Because if you don't, and you fire him, all of a sudden Cooper Flag has now had 3 different coaches in 3 to 4 years, different systems. He's not settled. He can't build a rapport with a head coach. Now all of a sudden, your franchise is dysfunctional. And not only did you trade away a superstar in his prime, but you're wasting the prime of a young superstar that you drafted to replace him. So this is the hire. And I don't know what direction is best, frankly, for Dallas. I think there's kind of 2 different avenues that you can go down if you're Dallas. Hire the young, up-and-coming, cutting-edge assistant that's getting his first opportunity as a head coach. Or do you hire the seasoned veteran that's been around, that's coached a lot of basketball, that's seen a lot of postseason basketball, that can kind of bring Cooper Flag up in these next few years of his career? I don't know. I don't know the best path forward, frankly, Fitzy. But I know for certain you have to get it right.
The hard part for me is what proof of concept do we have that Masai Ujiri is great at identifying head coaches? Certainly as in his management roles, he's identified players. And I'm not here to question somebody that has an NBA championship pedigree to turn around and say that he's not capable of it. But I asked this question. What's the best coach? Who is the best coach he's ever hired? Who was the guy that you could look at and say, oh, okay, Nick Nurse? So, like, Nick Nurse is the guy that we're going to look at. Nick Nurse is the reason that we say, okay, Masai is the man to figure out who the man is to lead the man known as Cooper Flag. I want to believe that he can do this. I just don't see a lot of proof of concept. I mean, when you talk about George Karl, like George Karl worked with Ujiri in Denver 2010 to 2013, right? So that's obviously where they had a ton of success, right? But that's not coming back. He inherited Dwayne Casey, then brings in Nick Nurse. Like I don't see any moment here where I'm like, oh, wait, this incredible landmark coach that has had all of this development and is an absolute beast on the sidelines and just the man, the myth, the legend of a coach was brought in by ... Masai Ujiri. I don't see that. So while I trust that Masai is going to be able to find the right players within the organization to surround Cooper Flagg with the talent that he needs, I don't see any proof of concept that he or anybody else within this organization knows what they're doing when it comes to identifying head coaching talent. Maybe they do. Maybe it just hasn't come up. Maybe you haven't had to, but maybe they don't. And this hiring is so key. I understand why you needed to feel, or you felt like you needed to move on from Jason Kidd. I get it. I get you want a clean slate. I get that Jason Kidd was also interviewing for your job. I get that there could have been a power struggle. I get that you want to come in and make the organization your own. I understand the math that gets us to why Jason Kidd was fired. But I say all the time on this show, change for the sake of change isn't always great change. With change, you need to have a purposeful plan on how you intend to fix things. And I'm sure he does. But what proof of concept we have as he runs his extensive search to find the great guy, that he's actually the guy to identify the guy? I don't know. So I'm nervous for Cooper Flagg because this hire means so much to Masai, obviously, but it means even more to Cooper Flagg in his development. We'll keep you updated on everything in the NBA coming up. But coming up next, we got big news, controversial news, I should say. Yet another speeding ticket coming from a former Georgia player impacting the NFL. We'll tell you about it.
Who's a better promoter, him or Eddie?
Very different. I mean, Dana. I think in terms
Why?
of they run a business at UFC. They have a model. You could complain about it. You could say it's anti-fighter, but they know what they're doing. You know, I don't think Eddie's going away. Do I think Dana has a smarter, more effective, more intelligent, better capitalized, better television connected thing going on than Eddie does? It's not even a question.
Should AJ Dibonsa be a lock for the number one pick going to the Washington Wizards? What do you think, Chad?
He's been my favorite player to watch really all year. I love what AJ brings to the table and the upside. I think he's got the combination of a can't miss scorer who could just ultimately be, you know, one of the elite top 5 players in the NBA. And I just don't think the Wizards take the risk. To me, he's the clear number one guy.
And the Jets with Darren Mucci as GM feel like they are figuring it out. Now, can Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, stay out of the way and let this thing progress? Does Aaron Glenn actually have the goods as head coach? I don't know that. But I think Geno Smith was a really sound signing. And I really do think, dodging lightning bolts here, the Jets could surprise people this year and be a lot better than the team you've been watching the last 15 years during this historic playoff drought.
Uh-oh, ball's up, ball's out. Tucson picks it up. We could have a scoop and score. Zachariah Twardowski, touchdown Sugar Skulls, and just like that, Tucson right back in it. The scoop and score for the Sugar Skulls. I mean, what a moment for this young man in his first career start.
Eagles linebacker Nolan Smith was arrested for speeding and reckless driving in Georgia last Friday per multiple reports. The former Georgia star and 2023 first-round pick has since been released on bond. He was clocked going 135. Again, I'll say that. 135 in a 70-mile-per-hour zone. He's the latest in a long line of Bulldogs to do this kind of thing. Caroline, I'm lost. I'm lost on what else can be said. I'm lost on what else can be done. Maybe I'm defeated through all of this because you just see the same mistake happening over and over and over again. And when you're driving 135 in a 70, you're not just making a little mistake. You're being that guy. You're putting so many people, you're putting yourself at risk. You're putting people on the road at risk. You're putting everybody at risk to go 135 in a 70. I'm lost at what we can say anymore that has any impact for what is obviously an epidemic in Georgia.
This is stupid. If you drive that fast, that's a stupid decision. You're not a stupid person, but that's a stupid decision. And this is clearly a foundational culture problem at the University of Georgia. If it is so prevalent in your football program that it supersedes players that have already left the program and have now been playing in the NFL for a handful of years. When they go back home, this is what they do. You go back to Georgia, you just drive absurdly fast. Shame on the University of Georgia football program. Shame on you for continuing to let this happen, for continuing to let this be such a thing. That, I mean, Nolan Smith, he's been gone for how many years? 4, at least? And he's still doing these kinds of things? That we have seen how many arrests? Traffic-related arrests to people within the or related to the Georgia football program in the last 6 months? Like, this is ridiculous. This has happened so many times to the point that now it's become a joke. But it's not funny because people have lost their lives. Like, people have died because of this, but it hasn't stopped. If anything, we've just seen an increase in the number of arrests. 25 driving-related arrests in 3 years. And that's just what we know of. Those are just the arrests. How many times have Georgia football players or former Georgia football players not gotten caught driving that fast? Because clearly it happens so much. Surely some get just, thrown under the rug. We all know that there are fixers. We all know that, there are a lot of football players important to the program that don't get caught for doing certain things. So this is, I think, such a bad look for Kirby Smart and the Georgia football program. And frankly, if I'm the mother of a child who's a 4-star, 5-star recruit who's getting recruited to go to Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State and Oregon and USC and all the biggest football programs across the country, and Kirby Smart is sitting on my couch and telling me that he's going to take care of my son, I'm going to say, are you sure about that? Because you haven't taken care of the poor, innocent people who lost their lives because of this, and the people who continue to get arrested for doing the same thing. This is embarrassing for Georgia and embarrassing for Nolan Smith.
135 in a 70. According to reports, he was pulled over in a Lamborghini. Honestly, I have friends that own Lamborghinis. I've ridden in Lamborghinis. And amazingly, I've never had to go 135 miles an hour. Where the hell are you going that you need to go 135 hours? And what the hell, 35 miles an hour? What the hell are you thinking? You can't control your vehicle at that cost, at that speed. No matter how brilliant you think you are behind the wheel, you can't control it. One move the wrong way, you're dead. One move the wrong way, somebody else is dead. And to be so flippant and so entitled behind the wheel. Like suddenly, because you have the money for a Lamborghini, you have the right to drive 135 in a 70? Because you're a football player, you think you have the right to do that? Because you're rich, you think you have the right to do that? Or you just don't care about anybody but yourself, so you decide that you'll do whatever the hell you want to, whenever the hell you want to, however the hell you want to. Shame on you. If anything, the state of Georgia needs to step in and change their own legislation. You need to change the penalties. It's well within the rights of the state to turn around and change the penalties for reckless driving. Do it. Do something about this. Stop protecting the football players more than you're protecting the people that are just driving down the road. Imagine being on the highway. He was driving on the highway. Imagine being on the highway on a regular night. We all know what it feels like when you're driving in the fast lane. And look, I'm somebody. I've had 5 speeding tickets in my life. I understand. I had 5 speeding tickets in my 20s. I understand. I wasn't always a smart driver. None of them were 135 and a 70. Good God, in the state of Tennessee, 15 over is reckless driving. You get hit with reckless driving, the penalties are substantial. So even when was driving too fast 20 years ago, I was smart enough to look at it and say, okay, 15 over, that's a problem. Imagine being in the fast lane and a car comes up on you at 100, a Lambo comes up on you at 135 and a 70. It's the first thing they do. They swerve around you. And in that moment, you swerve because you're scared to death of the car that's coming in. And all of a sudden now, you've created an incident because the person that's driving like an idiot thinks they're capable of it. I don't understand how anybody, whether you play football or whether you tour around the world playing music or whether you're an actor or whatever it is, I don't care how rich you are. I don't care how famous you are. I don't care how much your life is giving you opportunity. that doesn't mean that you just get to go out and make your own rules. 135 is disgusting. 135 is going to kill somebody. 135 is the sort of thing that does catastrophic damage to everybody involved, and you know when you're going that speed, because part of the reason you go that speed is you love the rush of it. I have friends that do NASCAR type driving events all over the place where you have to rent a car. You go out to Vegas, you can rent a car, you can go on a track. You can go out there and you can drive to your heart's content, and you can go that 130, 140 miles an hour. Why do they do it? Because they love the rush. There are places you can go. You can take your car that are safe, where you can do whatever you want. You fill out a bunch of forms, you pay some money, you can do whatever you want. Just do that. If you need the thrill from driving, do that. But when you're putting people at risk going 130, I keep saying the number because I think we all need to understand what 135 and a 70 looks like, Caroline. It's just, all of this is gross malpractice. All of this is gross negligence. All of this is when you kill somebody, and eventually going that fast you will, when you kill somebody, we're going to all look around and say, why didn't we stop it? And fact is, somebody in this Georgia whole catastrophe, I'll learn to speak, somebody has died, and it still hasn't changed it. It hasn't changed it. Even a death hasn't made people slow down. And if that won't, what will? The state of Georgia needs to step in, look at their own legislation, and figure out a way to stop this.
100%. I also want to put the kibosh on this sentiment that I have heard. And it's that NIL. It's that dang NIL is to blame. I think that's incredibly stupid. And here's why. First of all, football players have been getting paid since the beginning of time. Okay. I almost got hit by crossing the street when I was in college by an LSU football player driving an Audi sports car, like a teeny tiny little, like super fast Audi sports car. I don't know how many college, students that aren't making millions of dollars under the table can afford a car like that. So let's not act like football players getting fast cars is something new in the NIL era. Second of all, college students have been stupid since the beginning of time. NIL didn't all of a sudden just make people make bad decisions. Well, you've done it, I've done it, we've all done it. Whether you're rich or poor or whatever in college, you make dumb decisions, you do dumb things, you do things that you look back on and you think, my goodness, what in the world was I thinking? Because you're 18, 19, 20 years old. And 18, 19, 20-year-olds just don't think very well, especially when there's alcohol involved. So to act like poor decision-making is amplified because of NIL, I think is just off base, and you are pointing the finger at the wrong thing. You're pointing the finger at money being the problem when the real root of the problem is bad decision making. And when you have a history, an epidemic of bad decision making, the same bad decision over and over and over again, and the same place, I will point the finger at that. Not the money. Sure, when you have a lot of money, you have more resources at your disposal to make more and more bad decisions. But I went to LSU. Tyrann Mathieu failed how many drug tests when he was in college? That was before NIL. And that's just one example of so many dumb and stupid decisions that college football players have made pre and post NIL. You're letting Kirby Smart and you are letting Georgia football off the hook if you're going to blame NIL for that being the root of this problem.
The hypocrisy of blaming NIL too. As I always say, when Justin Timberlake was arrested for a DUI, nobody said, oh my God, he made money as a kid. We can't let that happen. When Sam Hunt was arrested for a DUI in Nashville, nobody said, oh my God, we can't let guys make money when they're young and they're musicians. The number of musicians that have put themselves in the same exact child musicians that have put themselves in the same exact position when they were old enough to drive, where they got massive speeding tickets or they got DUIs or they got anything else. Nobody ever turned around and said, oh my God, we need to stop young musicians from making money. We only say that to athletes because people are jealous that athletes make money. The money is not the problem. The responsibility is always a personal one. We'll continue to keep you updated on all that news and more. But coming up next, superstar power galore keeps coming to this show. MVS gonna join us next. We'll get his thoughts on the Cowboys.
Right back to work. TJ Edwards and Paxton DeLorette going blow for blow. Edwards. Oh, what a blitz pickup. Edwards to the end zone, and that is another touchdown. Third down. DeLorette throwing, coming back to make a great catch. Thomas Owens, the best receiver in the history of the franchise, just added another highlight to the reel.
I think for the Raptors, what did they learn here? They learned like they're in a great spot. And then Scotty Barnes, welcome. You have achieved stardom. Like that's what this series was for Scotty Barnes. He became a star. The dude hit clutch bucket after clutch bucket, made big plays as a playmaker as well. He was too big or too quick, depending on the guy he was being defended by. He was incredible.
The UFC has just given me so much. And I've met so many great fans around the world, different states and things like that. And I'm just blessed. And like I said, I'm glass half full all the time. Even when things are not going my way, I find a way to look at the bright side. I'm just happy to be here, man. And one fight at a time, when it's all said and done, I would love to have my last dance with the UFC.
Myler gets the snap. Myler extends the play, throws on the run, finds Bruce. Bruce lowers his head, reaches for the end zone and scores. Great pass by Myler, better effort by Arlen Bruce. And this Arizona offense is grooving. They retake the lead with 9 seconds left in the half.
Dak Prescott has a new target in Dallas as Marquez Valdes-Scantling penned a one-year deal with the Cowboys just a few weeks ago. MVS joins us now, making his debut on Yahoo Sports Daily. MVS, thanks for the time, man. What made you say yes to Dallas? Why the Cowboys?
Man, I contemplated, kind of hanging it up and, finishing my 8-year career at that point. Couple Super Bowls and being content with that. I think I still had a little more left in the tank. And it was one of those things where it was a really good system. I think Dak can spin the ball really well. I think he led the league in passing yards last year. So obviously he's doing something right. And I think it's just a great environment. And who wouldn't want to play for America's team?
Walk me through that decision-making process, because I've heard that from a lot of players who, like yourself, had a long and successful career and they're debating do I come back? Do I not come back? What are the pros and cons? How do you weigh that decision when you're going through that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was still interested in playing for Pittsburgh, but I was very adamant on, I wanted to play with Aaron if I was going to go back to Pittsburgh because, like I said, he's one of my best friends that I've made in this league, over my 9-year career now. And, he was kind of still undecided on if he was going to go back and play or if he was going to, hang it up. And so, I was like, man, let's see what else is out there. So my agent took a couple calls, and some of them weren't great fits for me. So I was like, yeah, I don't really want to go there. I don't want to go back to the West Coast. I don't want to be playing in the cold again. And so, the majority of my career playing in cold places and being a Florida boy, that sucks. But it was one of those things where it was just like, man, I know I can still do it. So.
Is there any emphasis for you on 10? Like I always think of Will Compton, buddy, always just screams, wants to get 10 in the league. Does 10 mean something to you?
That was a goal of mine when I was a kid. Like, man, I want to get to the NFL and play 10 years. And obviously that's very attainable now going into year 9. But I've done so much in this league, made so many plays, helped teams win so many games. I think any moment in this league is, I never take it for granted. So if it's 9 years or 12 years, or if it was 1 year, I was always going to be grateful for that.
Man, you mentioned it. Like you have played in some cold places: Kansas City, Green Bay, Buffalo. Oh,
Yeah, I've
you
had
got some of the worst of it. But
yeah,
those are also some of the best franchises in the National
100%.
Football League as well. You're heading to another one in Dallas. I've heard from so many former players that in Dallas, it just kind of hits different. Playing for the Cowboys feels different. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I mean, you hear about it, all over the league, as you're in it. But when you get to the facility and you see like how much money is spent and how they treat the players and how they take care of those guys, you can tell that this organization really cares about the players and how much it means to them and how much, this football organization means to the world. And like I said, I played for some really, really historic franchises that, have fans all over the world. I think Dallas is another one of those franchises.
So you've been around great teams. What makes a great franchise?
Man, I think it starts from the top down, obviously. And I think the best teams are always teams that are player led, that can hold the teammates accountable. Coaches can only do so much, and obviously everybody runs the same plays, but how it's presented is different. But I think that, the teams that have the players that can hold people accountable, those are the teams that really win. And like I said, I've been a part of some really, really good teams. I've won a couple Super Bowls. I've been a bunch of conference championships, and I think those are the best teams that I've been a part of.
And one big part of a great team is having a great quarterback. And you've
Yeah.
played with some great quarterbacks in this league. You mentioned how Aaron Rodgers is one of your best friends that you've made in the
Yeah.
NFL. Now you'll get the opportunity to play with another great quarterback in Dak
Yeah.
Prescott. How do you approach building that relationship with a new quarterback when you've had a great one with your former one?
Yeah, just the same way I built it with all the other quarterbacks, man. Just communication, talking football, hanging out outside the facility, finding things that we have similarities in, and just building that trust, on and off the field, and just knowing that you can go lean on this person. And obviously, like I played a long time, so there is some, familiarity with, my game and what I do and the leadership that I provide. And so just being up and showing that I can still do that and being the same guy every day. I think that's the most important thing.
How do you prepare for the noise that comes with play? Like, I'm just thinking about the fact that a bad game for a quarterback isn't always covered the same way. A bad game for Dak
Yeah.
becomes the lead topic on ESPN for 3 days until the next 2 days where they set up the next game. So, how do you prepare for the noise that comes with the Cowboys?
I mean, like I said, I've been a part of some of the greatest organizations, and I've had that kind of noise complaints. And it doesn't matter. We don't want to listen to the outside noise. We know what we do, and it's hard being the best in the world at what we do. And so, you know, no one's a bigger critic than ourselves.
And not only is it the media frenzy that makes the Dallas Cowboys what they are, not only is it the quarterback that we mentioned, but it's also that great wide receiver room. George
Yeah.
Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. Have you been able to talk to either of them yet?
Yeah, I haven't seen George yet, but we've worked out together a couple times in the off seasons in the past. But I've been around CD this off season, during OTAs, and he's a tremendous dude, man. Very humble. Works his butt off, shows up every day. He's definitely the leader of that room, and I'm just coming in to help provide some veteran leadership. Obviously, I'm the oldest guy in the room. That's the craziest thing for me to say, but just being able to just give different insights and different things that I've experienced in my career. Obviously he's had an immaculate career. Both of those guys have. So just being able to give different insights and provide different leadership qualities that I hope can help them in their careers and they can continue to play at the high level that they play at.
You've seen so much football, but you said earlier, y'all run in the same place. How long does it take you to get real timing down in an offense with the quarterback and sort of learn what they need?
Man, I don't think there's a time stamp that you can put onto it. I think it's just more reps, just understanding, how he likes to throw these certain footballs. Obviously learning the system is the most important thing. So the quicker you can learn the system, the quicker you can get in there and play with the guys. So that's obviously step one. And then just as many reps as possible, with those guys, so whether that's during OTAs or during our break between OTAs and training camp, linking up with those guys and still running routes. I think that's where you truly learn, how the quarterback sees the game.
Okay, so I'm curious. At Jerry's World, There's that
Okay.
giant glass window, right? If we've heard so many times of play, like the sun getting in players' eyes, it messes with their visibility. I even saw that when the World Cups games are going to be in Jerry's world, they're going to put up like a giant curtain to make sure that the sun is not a
Mhm.
factor. Are you worried about that? Have you heard anything at all about the giant
I
glass
played.
window in the sun?
I played there 1 year back in I think like 2019 or something, and it didn't affect me then. But I've seen football games where guys can't see the football, and it affects their vision. But there's always something in every stadium, whether it's the lights or the wind or something. So if it's bad for one side of the ball, it's bad for the other side of the ball too.
Okay, so when the schedule came out and you're coming into the Cowboys, is there a game that you've looked at? Yes, they have the Packers, so I wonder, but is there a game that came out on the schedule that you've circled that you're like, I can't wait for that one?
Nah, man. I played so many. Believe it or not, a lot of guys don't really hold grudges. Obviously there's some rivalries, with players, but for the most part, man, it's who we got this week, and that's what's important. Obviously some games mean more than others, but I don't have any beef with any teams that I've played against or played with that may have moved on from me. Like I said, I'm grateful for all the opportunities that I've had, and I have no animosity, and I don't have any revenge games necessarily.
All right, so then look back, no animosity, but is there a player that you absolutely love going up against?
Man, uh, nah, not necessarily. I mean, like I said, I love the idea of competing. There's not a guy that I can just pinpoint and be like, man, I really want to go battle up against that guy. Man, it's like that every week. As a true competitor, it doesn't really matter who's in front of you. You can be my grandma. Like, I'm gonna feel the same way. So,
What about the other side? Is there someone that you're like, man, I just don't want to deal with this guy today?
no, I mean, obviously, I got to play in Seattle last year, so watching JSN become the player that he is, obviously he was really talented the year before, put up like 1,400 yards or something like that. But to just watch him do what he did last year, I'm excited to see that again. And obviously, we play them on primetime football in one of these weeks. I don't even know what week it was. And obviously, like I said, that's like my little brother, so I'm excited to watch what we could do to slow him down.
You've accomplished so much. Whenever you decide you don't want to play anymore and you look back on your career, what's the one moment, if you could put one up that say, hey, this is my favorite moment of my career, what was it?
Man, probably the AFC Championship game versus the Bengals. When I was in Kansas City, I think that was one of the bigger moments. Either that one or the NFC Championship game versus the Bucks. I think those were two pivotal moments in my career. I think when I was playing in Kansas City with the Bengals, or against the Bengals, we had all our receivers go down. So it was like me, Marcus Kemp, and Sky Moore, like the last three guys left. And I had to go in and essentially do everything I could to help the team win. So I think that was a really good game for me. And I think when we played the Bucks and we lost in 2020, that was one of the most heartbreaking losses that I've ever had to deal with because I played really well. It was against my hometown team. The Super Bowl was in Tampa that year where I live. And so I think those two moments were like the two moments that defined my career for me, of like the highs of highs and the lows of lows.
So not only are you here with us to talk ball, which we could do all day long, you're also here to talk about the Lux Fashion Fest and the Humble Beginnings inaugural scholarship. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I started this fashion show down here in the Tampa Bay area 3 years ago. And it was essentially, I wanted to create a fashion show for NFL players. And when I originally started it, I was looking for all the NFL players around the league that had, clothing lines or brands. And as I started to do my research on it, I realized that a lot of players only had, merch with their face on it. And that wasn't really the lane that I wanted to go down. So I kind of pivoted and changed into a space where I can get creators from all over the world to come in and showcase that may not have the platform that I have to showcase, the cool things that they do and create. And so obviously I put my brand in it, make all the clothes for that. And then I invite other brands from all over the United States to come out and showcase their stuff in front of all my celebrity friends, in front of brands and all that stuff. I get, a different artist to come and perform, whether they're local or, a big time artist. And it's great. And then, we were able to give out a scholarship this year to one of our volunteers from the University of Tampa. His name's Nick, and he's been a part of this thing from the jump. And he shows up, and I can't ask for a better person to give our first scholarship to.
What got you into fashion?
So I'm an introvert by nature. So fashion kind of has always been the thing that I use to showcase my creativity or just express myself. And I started when I was a kid, and fashion has just kind of always been the way that I showcase who I was, and I don't shy away from it.
Is there a designer or somebody in fashion that's really inspired you?
Man, I wouldn't say that there's a designer that has inspired me. I think just growing up and just being able to watch all the people create, and then just watching guys like Max Julian, the way that he dressed when I was a kid, and just like watching guys like that just, or even like artists like Pharrell, who, has pivoted into the creating for Louis Vuitton, but watching him grow up, and then even guys like, Will Smith on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, or Martin Lawrence, we go into streetwear, like just watching guys like that, be creative in those spaces, has always been like a thing for me that I was like, man, I want to be like that when I get older.
I love NFL players finding secondary passions and creativity, man. It's really cool. We could talk to you about that all day. MBS, thanks so much. Good luck this year for the Cowboys. Go kick ass. We appreciate you hanging out with us today. You got to come back after the season, and you absolutely dominate. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Marquez.
It's great stuff from MBS. He's going to have a big year on a great Cowboys team. Coming up next, big deal or nah? We'll figure it out on some of the biggest stories in sports.
Quarterback, you want those guys that just go down hard or they chase the back.
Here comes Pius once again, gets through. The ball is hauled in off the dasher board by Marlon Cook Jr. A full-grown man reception there at the 15-yard line. Atkinson's two in motion. He'll run behind the block, now throw back to Marlon Cook Jr., and the ball's caught for a touchdown.
But I'm not going to lie, I was totally shocked. I was shocked that they actually pulled the trigger. I wondered if they would, again, still try to build around a huge talent in the WNBA, who's a huge star, one of the most popular players in the league, regardless of what you think about her play. They're going to be able to move games to State Farm Arena, where the Hawks play now, because of the Angel Reese effect. And I think she wanted an organization that had a clear vision of the future, and she gets that in Atlanta.
I loved Acuff all year. I mean, what an amazing college player.
Oh, yeah.
It's just his prototype in the NBA concerns me. But Acuff to me is the one that says, is he as good as Trae Young offensively? Probably not. Is he as bad defensively as Trae Young? Probably. And
you hope not.
There's a question about how playable Trae Young is, even with the skill set that he has.
There's the toss to Kerrigan. He is destroyed at the 2-yard line.
Yeah, and a great effort by Carson Taylor, defensive end. He makes Kerrigan really have to get wide here, and then good pursuit by the rest of the defense.
Arizona down by 3. Snap to Myler. There's to give to Clark. Open space, hurdles a defender, and he's tackled at the 17.
This was tweeted out yesterday on May 20th. Does your team have at least one win versus a team with a record above 500? Yes, all over the place. One? No. That's because the Yankees 1-8 versus teams with the 500 or better record. You heard that correctly. 1-8. It is not a, let's say, juggernaut of a schedule they face. So we're going to go through some big stories and we're going to figure out big deal or nah. So, Caroline, to you, the fact that the Yankees are basically feasting on the lower and the worst of the Major League Baseball options. Big deal or nah?
Nah. There's 5 teams in the AL that are above 500. And the Yankees are one of them. So, first and foremost, the Yankees don't have very many opportunities to play against teams that are above 500, at least in the American League. And also, they, like, if you look at the entire scope of the American League, like, they're not going to have to necessarily get past a bunch of juggernauts in order to find themselves in the postseason. We've seen this Yankees team be absolutely electric. You're gonna go through peaks and valleys throughout the course of a baseball season. Like, I always say that teams really don't start to find their footing until Memorial Day-ish. It's Memorial Day. So it feels like the season's like just now really getting started. So maybe the Yankees are, experiencing some of those peaks and those valleys and those figuring out what our identity is types of moments throughout the course of a 160 plus game season. So I'm not worried about the Yankees. The American League, I think, is one that you can limp to get through.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking right now, and according to tankathon.com, which looks at the remaining strength of schedule, the Yankees have the 17th toughest remaining strength of schedule at 502. So basically, they're playing at best a 500 strength of schedule, and that includes games remaining against Tampa Bay, Atlanta, the Dodgers, the Padres, the Cubs, and the Guardians, 6 teams that have won some games. So I say that to say that the majority of what they have left in front of them is slop. So are the Yankees feasting on slop, or are the Yankees only going to have the opportunity to feast mostly on slop? I think it's the latter. Like, this isn't a big deal because this is going to be the case all year. I almost think we're picking and choosing if we're coming in and saying, well, they're not beating anybody good. What if nobody worth the damn actually plays in the AL? What if there's only 4 or 5 teams that are worth paying attention to in all of the American League? I think we're a lot closer to that than we want to admit. And knowing that we're a lot closer to that than we want to admit, realizing that we're not going to get to any big hot takes on this show until at least the 4th of July here, this is not a big deal to me because who the Yankees are now is who the Yankees are going to be able to be all season long. They can coast through a wildly weird AL. They can beat up on the bad. They can lose to the good. And then when we get to October, the only thing we'll hear is October baseball is so different than the regular season that it will apologize for whatever the result is, and the Yankees will be just fine. That might be the most cynical baseball take in the history of baseball takes. So let's move forward and see if I can get less cynical on the next one. WNBA. You might have noticed the officiating has been a little bit different this season. Free throw shooting has gone up drastically since last season. The players wanted a less physical league, and they're getting it. Tons of fouls being called. Big deal or nah?
This is for right now. This is a big deal for now, and it may not be a big deal once we get into the grind of the season in June and July. For anybody that didn't know, the WNBA this season started a task force led by Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner of the league, to try and get officiating standardized across the league and also to make the games just less physical. So they're calling significantly more fouls per game. On average, there's about 21 fouls called per game, which is up from 17 last year. So that's a pretty seismic shift. And right now, players are just starting to get used to that. They're trying to get used to that. So you're seeing a ton of fouls called, but I do think you're going to see kind of a regression to the mean where players start to get more used to the flow of the game. What can they do? What can't they do? But for right now, like especially some of these veteran bigs, like Jonquil Jones, who plays for the New York Liberty, like she has come out and said like she's really having a difficult time with this because she's been in the league for a really long time and she is a large and physical and bruising player, that she's getting called for fouls at a significantly higher clip than she's accustomed to. I chalk it up to right now, the players just have to get used to it. They have to get accustomed to the way that the games are played. And by the time we get into the postseason, they're going to be used to it. But that's hope. I hope at least that the players can get used to this because for right now, it's kind of brutal to watch.
I think this is a big deal right now that will become not a big deal. Right now, the last portion of what you just mentioned is the toughest. It is brutal to watch. These games have slowed down to a halt. There's not a lot of flow in them.
It's taking forever.
The shooting doesn't look great. It's just, it is painful. As somebody that I have W on almost every day on one of the TVs in the living room, it's just, as much as I'm watching it, I'm sitting here thinking we've got to get the pace back in to the WNBA. This is what I believe, though. And I'm going to apply sort of the officiating standard here that we see in literally every sport. In every sport, we are given a point of emphasis of the offseason. And they go to the officials and they say, hey, in the NFL, like we're gonna watch more of, pass interference, more illegal contact to the outside, whatever it is. We're gonna pay more attention to. And for the first month of the season, the officials do. And they send the message, and then slowly it just sort of deteriorates right back to the norm of where it mostly was. You and I cover a lot of indoor football league. One of the emphasis of that league was we're going to call more offsides, false starts from the offense because of the motion in the league. And for the first few weeks, they sure did, and then it just sort of tinkers on down. Like that, that's what happens. I believe that what's going to happen over the course of the season is that they're sending a message now. They'll continue to send that message. And about, a month and a half into the season, we'll stop talking about it as much. It'll stop getting called as much. The players will adjust a little bit, but more importantly, the officials will adjust. If you go into anybody right before they do something and say, pay close attention. If you're about to cook pasta and somebody says, pay close attention to the temperature of the water, you're going to look at the pot every 3 minutes because somebody just planted that in your brain. A month later, you're right back to what you've always done. So I believe this will normalize, but I also believe that it needs to normalize because right now it's a tough look. Let's get to this one. Big deal or not for a tough look on this. A lot of conversation coming out of Cleveland for the Browns. Todd Monken, the new head coach of the Browns, said that he and Myles Garrett have not yet spoken. So Monken saying that they haven't talked at all. How do we know that? He told the media the two haven't spoken. It's a simple answer. Have you spoken to Myles Garrett yet? Nope. Big deal or nah that Myles Garrett has not yet spoken to Todd Monken?
I don't think it's everything, but I don't think it's nothing. Like, we're not going to be talking about this in November. Whether the Browns suck or whether they're great, we're not going to be talking about this. But I also think that's strange. I think that's weird. Myles Garrett is the franchise player, is the focal point of this entire team. He is the one that sells tickets and puts butts in seats. That's their superstar. So you mean to tell me that Todd Monken got hired, around Super Bowl time? Fair to say, February-ish. That was 3-4 months ago. And their new head coach has yet to talk to their franchise player, best player on the team, guy who sells tickets and puts butts in seats. Especially when we knew that Myles Garrett was very against the firing of, Jim Schwartz. When Jim Schwartz was no longer in the building, I didn't get fired, but when Jim Schwartz was no longer in the building, Myles Garrett was pretty vocal about that. That was his guy. So to know that Myles Garrett, that, his guy is no longer in the building and that Todd Monken hasn't talked to him, that's weird, especially for an organization that smells of dysfunction all the time. This smells even more of dysfunction.
So it's hard for me not to think of this and think of Khalil Mack because of my fandom, admittedly, as a Raiders fan. But when John Gruden was hired as the coach of the Raiders, according to reports at the time, this was back in 2018, Khalil Mack and John Gruden didn't speak. And then all of a sudden, Gruden later disputed the claims, said that they spoke once right after he got the job. But they didn't really speak after that point. And then Khalil Mack was traded. So I do wonder what water is under this bridge and whether or not the bridge can be built high enough to make it happen. I wonder what it means, frankly. And we never know when they haven't spoken. Is it because Myles Garrett has been off doing charity work somewhere and hasn't worried about it? Was it a planned thing that Myles Garrett doesn't usually speak to the coaching staff a lot? He trains in the offseason on his own. Is it because Todd Monken hasn't called him, or when he did call him, it was a bad time? I don't know. There's a million different reasons why maybe they haven't spoken. But what I think is staggering is that by answering the question so bluntly, which seems to be part of who Todd Monken is, he's not going to mince words at the microphone. It creates a conversation piece. Now, whenever we do see Myles Garrett in public, the first question is going to be, why haven't you spoken to Monken? Now there's going to be repeated questions every week. Have you now spoken to Myles Garrett, to Todd Monken? I think it's interesting that a coach was willing to create the conversation. Hell, even if he lied to us and said, yeah, we've been in communication, I wouldn't have minded that. I'm surprised Monken said no. So to me, while I don't think there's a real chance that Myles Garrett is traded, I don't think that A, it would be this quiet if he was going anywhere, and B, I think that there'd be so much interest and so much conversation around it that we would get rumblings all over the place. Even with that being said, the fact that we've heard nothing about it, I think Myles Garrett's going to be a Brown. but I still wonder what this means. It seems strange to me when it is so clear who your number one player is, when it is so clear who the face of your franchise is, when it is so clear that he has at times not been in love with the direction of the organization, and we all know that he wasn't happy with the decision made on the defensive side of the ball. It is surprising to me that Todd Monken hasn't hopped on a private jet if need be and flown to wherever he has to just to talk to Myles Garrett and make sure everything's good. So I'm with you. I don't think it changes the result of him playing the season, but it feels like it's a weirdly big deal to me.
I mean, to your point, look, Myles Garrett's doing his own thing. He's going to watch Chloe Kim in the Olympics, doing charity work somewhere. You have a phone. Like, if I was in the middle of the Himalayas, you and I could still talk about what is going to be on our rundown for our show on Tuesday morning after Memorial Day weekend. You can, like you said, get on a flight, give him a phone call, send a person, send a carrier pigeon, send smoke signals. Like, we are all connected constantly 24/7. So you mean to tell me that you've had months now to have a conversation with Myles Garrett? Didn't even have to be face-to-face. Could just be over the phone, and you haven't had a single conversation with him? It is the cherry on top of a bunch of question marks when it comes to Myles Garrett and the Browns organization. Clearly, he's not totally content with the organization. I know he decided to come back to Cleveland. That was his own choice. He didn't have to come back to Cleveland. But also, I don't blame him for not being totally sunshine and rainbows with the Cleveland Browns organization. I wouldn't be if I was the best defensive player on the planet. So this just kind of adds salt into the wound, or adds even more question marks to the questions that I feel like already exist between Myles Garrett and the Cleveland Browns organization.
Yeah, question marks that a new coaching staff doesn't need, while a regime is also soft launching the next Deshaun Watson era. Things just feel chaotic for a Browns team that I could see being a shocker for this season, and I could also see falling apart. So we'll see how it plays out over the course of the summer. This story isn't going anywhere. Coming up next, we'll keep breaking down the NFL. Woody Marks, Texans running back, going to join us next. We'll talk to him about so far his NFL career and what things look like in Texas.
Who's a better promoter, him or Eddie?
Very different. I mean, Dana. I think in terms
Why?
They run a business at UFC. They have a model. You could complain about it. You could say it's anti-fighter, but they know what they're doing. I don't think Eddie's going away. Do I think Dana has a smarter, more effective, more intelligent, better capitalized, better television connected thing going on than Eddie does? It's not even a question.
Should AJ Bonsa be a lock for the number one pick going to the Washington Wizards? What do you think, Chad?
He's been my favorite player to watch really all year. I love what AJ brings to the table and the upside. I think he's got the combination of a can't miss scorer who could just ultimately be, one of the elite top 5 players in the NBA. And I just don't think the Wizards take the risk. To me, he's the clear number one guy.
And the Jets with Darren Mucci as GM feel like they are figuring it out. Now, can Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, stay out of the way and let this thing progress? Does Aaron Glenn actually have the goods as head coach? I don't know that. But I think Geno Smith was a really sound signing. And I really do think, dodging lightning bolts here, the Jets could surprise people this year and be a lot better than the team you've been watching the last 15 years during this historic playoff drought.
Uh-oh, ball's up, ball's out. Tucson picks it up. We could have a scoop and score. Zachariah Twardowski, touchdown, Sugar Skulls, and just like that, Tucson right back in it. The scoop and score for the Sugar Skulls. I mean, what a moment for this young man in his first career start.
It's never too early to try and figure out what we're going to see in the next NFL season. And I think one of the toughest divisions to figure that out with Caroline is the AFC South. And that's a division because I think that, I use the phrase all the time, the yeah buts. You could make a case for or against success for many of the teams in this division, right? We talked about the Colts and the fact that, oh my God, what is Daniel Jones? If Daniel Jones comes back and he's the best of who he is, look at how good the Colts were last year. Who knows? The Jags last year exploded on the scene. Is that sustainable? Sure. Or was it just a flash in the pan for half of a season where they were super hot? Is Cam Ward really the answer for the Titans, and they're about to take a big leap forward in year 2 with the new coaching staff that seems to understand football better than the last one? Maybe. Like, I can look all the way across the board. And then the Texans. The Texans, a difficult team because we anointed them after C.J. Stroud's rookie campaign as a future competitor with the Kansas City Chiefs. They haven't really been that, but they haven't been bad. So I look at the AFC South, and I can't figure out what to make of it.
Well, Fitz, the Titans got rid of seed oils. So I think we can crown them sleeping giants. Because you know what is the reason for going 3-14? Vegetable oil.
Yeah.
Doritos in the facility, you know? That surely is the reason why the Titans have sucked the last 3 to 4 years. This is a fascinating division, though, because when we were, talking about the AFC South, I was thinking, who won the AFC South last year? I don't remember, because I felt like it could have been the Texans, very much so. It very much so could have been the Colts, and the surge that they had at the beginning of the season. Was that enough to carry them even after Daniel Jones's injury? We saw Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence play like an MVP caliber player. Like, all of those storylines were kind of just muffled all up in my head of how last season looked. And that's how, I kind of feel about the AFC South going into this year. I think the AFC South and the AFC North might be two of the most unpredictable divisions as we go into this season, because you have 3 teams that feel like they could be in contention, that feel like they have the pieces, but have massive fatal flaws. And then there's one team in each division, Cleveland in the AFC North and Tennessee in the AFC South, that feel like maybe there's a higher ceiling this year, but there's also massive deficiencies. Question marks at the quarterback position. Are there enough playmakers? Yes, you have one great marquee defensive player, Myles Garrett and Jeffrey Simmons, but what else do you have around him? New coaching staff coming in. A lot of parallels between those two divisions. My big question, though, for the Texans is the question that will be looming large and has been looming large, and I think probably is almost plaguing this franchise. Is C.J. Stroud your guy? Nobody in that front office or in that organization is going to come out and say that. They're all going to put the kibosh on that question. They're all going to say, he was the offensive rookie of the year. Of course he's our guy. That was a long time ago. And football is a what have you done for me lately league. C.J. Stroud has not won offensive rookie of the year lately. Instead, no. C.J. Stroud has thrown 4 picks in a playoff game and totally and completely wasted a championship defensive performance, a championship defense in Houston. So I have major question marks about CJ Stroud. Frankly, if I had to make my mind up about it today, I would say no, CJ Stroud's not the future of the Houston Texans. No, luckily for them and for me, we don't have to make that decision right now. But that is the number one question about the Texans. How much longer are you going to allow CJ Stroud to waste a championship defense and Will Anderson playing in his prime?
Well, one way that you help your quarterback, and certainly they want to help him, is with the great running game, which is part of what they're doing. And Woody Marks, Texans running back, joins us now. Woody, absolutely electric, exciting. We're trying to figure out what to make of your division because your division is wildly chaotic. Hear me out on this. We Caroline and I both spent a lot of time in Tennessee. Like, we've both been around the Titans. We both covered this team. This division, you got one team that won 13 games, one team that won 12 games, one team that won 8 games. Woody, sometimes, as Woody's getting his camera set for us, I think. Woody, we'll work on Woody. We'll work on Woody. He's getting his camera set. This is live TV at its finest as we get Woody set up for the Texans running back, trying to figure out what we make of the AFC South. And when we get Woody back, we'll let you know. In the meantime, I'm just going to sit here. I think we've almost got him. Great. Now we got Woody. We'll bring him in. Woody, do you feel like sometimes the AFC South is slept on? When you got a 13-win team, a 12-win team, and an 8-win team, most of the time we be coming in and saying, oh, my God, look at this division. And I feel like a lot of times people just forget about the greatness that can be in the South.
Yeah, for sure. It's a tough division. We got great teams over here. We ball. I'll say we probably got the toughest division out here. So just it speaks for itself right there.
It is a tough division and a slept on division. Like Fitz said, he and I both covered this division for a long time. And I felt like it didn't get the recognition that it deserved. But neither does this Texans team. That the run game just got that much better with the addition of David Montgomery. He had that Sonic and Knuckles duo going on in Detroit. What kind of conversations have you had with him? And can you see a Woody and Knuckles partnership unfolding in Houston?
Yeah, for sure. We got a play coming up. Woody Knuckles. So we got a great chemistry. Our whole running back room, we got great chemistry. We've been bonding a lot and getting together with the O line and stuff. So everybody bonding good right now. So we on a great path.
You were critical of yourself with their rookie campaign, and now they bring in another running back, which can help you. But how do you sort of take your game to the next level in what is now a split backfield?
Oh yeah, you always need a split backfield running back. We take a lot of hits. We get hit every play, either for you blocking or running. And I say Montgomery, he been doing a great job, just going off of just learning my style of play, me learning his style of play, learning new things. You always need a tandem 1-2 punch in the backfield. Sometimes you need a 3 punch. So just getting that in, and we just getting to work right now. So.
I know going into your rookie season, it's a lot of just learning how to be an NFL player, life in the NFL, the speed of the game in the NFL. How much different does this offseason feel versus the one going into your rookie year?
Oh yeah, it feel much different, much slower now. It was pretty fast my rookie year, just picking up on everything and not trying to be too perfect. I could just play freely now and just go out there and ball, do the things that I'm used to doing on the football field.
CJ was so good his rookie year. One of our analysts at Yahoo said it was the best rookie season he'd ever seen, even better than Marino. With that level of hype, and then the result the last couple of years, what have you seen from CJ Stroud?
This year, I say since March 2nd, since we got back, working out, he been working his tail off, getting out there running, getting faster, getting stronger, just doing the little things in film, watching stuff, being open more of a great leader that he already was, but he just speaking up and making sure everybody got the goal, that one goal on their mind. This the first team to put a bull on the ring, and we trying to make that happen this year, not next year, not the years upon us.
The CJ Stroud that we see in the media and in interviews, he's very philosophical. He's very thoughtful. What is the CJ Stroud behind closed doors like that we don't get to see?
Real funny guy. Great teammate. Always cracking jokes. Want to do anything that we have outside of the facility with us. Just getting around the guys. He want to be around the guys all the time. Just have fun outside of football, and just invite people over to go eat somewhere. Just doing the things so we can bond together and be as a one team, as a one. Not just all split up. And I think he doing a great job with bringing the rookies along. Just going up there and telling them who he is and bringing them along in the locker room, making sure they not feeling left out just because he a vet and he a rookie and they are rookies.
That defense for y'all is nasty. What's it like going against them in practice every day?
Man, that defense is crazy over there. But it's good. We know we're going to go up against one of the greatest defense out there, and so that would make us better right there. So we looking for the new challenge this year. We got a different O line coming in right now, so we looking for a new challenge. Our O line versus their D line during training camp.
Did you play against Will Anderson when you were at Mississippi State?
Yeah, I did. Him and Henry.
How much better is it now wearing the same uniform as them versus having to go up against them?
For sure. We talked about this last year. I hate to be on the other side. That defense is just crazy over there, and just seeing it firsthand, watching them practice and watching the way they work. Even out with the pass on how they go about themselves. It's not just the players though; it's the coaches too on that side. They all about business. They've been in this game for a long time. Some of the coaches been in the game for a long time and played the ball, and I think they got the players with that same mindset on their side. And just putting the whole team as that swarm mentality is just what we trying to live by. Not just all you hear Texas as a defensive team, great defense, but we want to be an all-around team, special team, offense, and defense. We just want to be that type of team and not just have a one-dimensional team like, oh, this defense is good.
Woody, one of y'all's rivals, the Tennessee Titans, redid their unis this year, and they decided to go with some old Houston Oiler flair on it, which has had some of the fans fired up. For you guys, when you see that, like, what's your reaction?
How is crazy. Shout out to them, though. They like what we do over here.
Are they your biggest?
Is there a
who
rivalry?
is your biggest rival for the Texans?
Me? I live by, I say the Colts. Colts really they game really be fired up. Last year it was kind of fired up both times. So yeah, I'll say the Colts.
Is there a game when your schedule came out this year that you? Yeah, we're saying the same thing. Is there a game in your schedule this year that you circled that you're like, I can't wait to take on this team?
Yeah, the Jacksonville, out there in London, just being out there, get to play ball out there in the new scenery. It'll be amazing. And then just going against them. I know a couple of players on that team who played at Mississippi State and who trained with me, going into the combine. So they'll be a great game. Great team over there, and love to see it happen in London.
See, we make it, the media and what we do. We make such a big deal of the international games, the travel, the time change, how hard it is on your bodies. How do you all approach the international games?
Oh, you got to get on top of it real fast. Just getting stuff on the plane, doing all you can, working with the nutritionist and everything, making sure your body good because it's gonna be a quick turnaround sometimes. So just doing everything. Don't pick up on it at the last minute. Make sure it's a lot of stuff coming to it. There's sometimes you have a Sunday game, and then you come around and play Thursday. So just flipping around. It's a longer flight, and make sure your legs good. It's so much technology out here, so you get portable stuff, and you can take on the plane, put your legs in, so your legs won't be dead. It's kind of hard to sleep, get the right good sleep on the plane instead of in the bed. It's kind of different right there, but for your body, it'll be straight though. Just try to get a good amount of sleep, depending on what plane we're on.
Woody, before we get you out of here, Yahoo, best fantasy football site in the world, obviously. Any big fantasy football predictions for you this season?
I'm just want to go out there and ball, do the best I can, make people happy, not mad. Just do anything I can. So yeah, I really don't know what fantasy football is, but yeah.
Hey, you know what? You play the real stuff. We'll stick to the fantasy. That's the way it works. Woody, we appreciate your time, man. Congratulations on a great career start so far. Can't wait to watch you kick butt this season. Got to come back and hang out with us again. Thanks for hanging out.
For sure. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks so much. Woody Marks, going to be fun to watch that backfield this year. Coming up, fun to watch that man. He's trying to take down UFC. We'll tell you about it.
Right back to work. TJ Edwards and Paxton DeLorette going blow for blow. Edwards. Oh, what a blitz pickup. Edwards to the end zone, and that is another touchdown. Third down. DeLorette throwing, coming back to make a great catch. Thomas Owens, the best receiver in the history of the franchise, just added another highlight to the reel.
I think for the Raptors, what did they learn here? They learned like they're in a great spot. And then Scotty Barnes, welcome. You have achieved stardom. Like that's what this series was for Scotty Barnes. He became a star. The dude hit clutch bucket after clutch bucket, made big plays as a playmaker as well. He was too big or too quick, depending on the guy he was being defended by. He was incredible.
The UFC has just given me so much, and I've met so many great fans around the world, different states and things like that, and I'm just blessed. And like I said, I'm glass half full all the time. Even when things are not going my way, I find a way to look at the bright side. I'm just happy to be here, man. And one fight at a time. When it's all said and done, I would love to have my last dance with the UFC.
Myler gets the snap. Myler extends the play, throws on the run, finds Bruce. Bruce lowers his head, reaches for the end zone and scores. Great pass by Myler, better effort by Arlen Bruce. And this Arizona offense is grooving. They retake the lead with 9 seconds left in the half.
The Rousey Carano card peaked at 17 million global viewers on Netflix. For reference, other numbers for fights on Netflix: Jake Paul versus Tyson, 108 million. Soleno versus Crawford, 41 million. Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua, 33 million viewers. Feels like Netflix is directly trying to make UFC tap out. Can they? Can Jake Paul's MVP actually make UFC tap out, Caroline?
Tap out? No, I'm not going to go as far as to say that, but there is definitely a hot new bombshell that has entered the villa. Like, this is going to make, I think, UFC feel uncomfortable. This is definitely going to take some attention, some eyeballs, and some money away from UFC. But I do wonder, too, can MVP have the same impact on UFC that maybe Live Golf had on the PGA? That now there's this other entity out there. There's this other group that's commanding dollars, that's commanding attention. And it made, I felt like the PGA grow that much stronger because it was like a hero and a villain. I wonder if MVP can be kind of that villain to the UFC's hero, potentially. I don't think this is going to bankrupt UFC. I don't think that this is going to, make UFC, just totally and completely irrelevant. But I definitely think that MVP is making everyone at UFC feel a little uncomfy. Anytime you have an influencer and a big time name with big time money involved, there's going to be some competition.
I think what we're seeing is one knows how to market incredibly special events. So it depends on what you want. I'll go back to wrestling. I know they're not the same, but frankly, there are a lot of people that don't watch Raw or SmackDown every single week, but they watch WrestleMania, but they watch the big events. And I think that's what's happening. What we're seeing right now is there are just too many UFC events for any of them to be special. So UFC is being sort of relegated in this situation to Raw, SmackDown. There's an audience that will watch it. They'll watch all of these fights. But Jake Paul is putting on WrestleMania. Jake Paul is putting on Survivor Series. Jake Paul is putting on the big tentpole events that people are going to want to flock to. So will it make UFC tap out? I don't think so. But will it change the ceiling for UFC? It already has. And it will continue to until UFC can find a way to make every event special, which is impossible to do when we get constant events. So Jake Paul has figured out how to be the WrestleMania of his sport. Not surprising given his background at all. Let's keep the fight night going theme with some brouhaha's around sports, and we'll go to this. Joey Chestnut will be allowed to compete in the 4th of July hot dog eating contest, a contest that I have sideline reported 3 times in my career, despite his arrest for battery after a drunken bar fight. What's more, man? What do we think? We in on this, Caroline?
I mean, what is more American than getting in a bar fight and then going out and sucking down like 75 hot dogs for all of America to see on 4th of July? I mean, that just sounds like a bald eagle screech to me. Now, I'm poking fun at this. Joey Chestnut got in a bar fight. Nobody got hurt. It doesn't seem like there was nothing that escalated to the point of like total and complete concern. Joey Chestnut probably indulged in a couple of cocktails. Things got a little bit heated. He got, whatever. If this was worse, like if this was Joey Chestnut actually hurting someone, taking it too far, that's a different story. But if it's just a bar fight, and everyone's fine, we can all just kiss and make up, then yeah, go on. Suck down your hot dogs, Joey Chestnut. Go crazy.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with this, but I would say this. If we can pull back up the quote a moment ago, the statement from the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, which is the Shea brothers, the statement from them says this incident has nothing to do with Nathan's, their spokesman. Again, I know the Shea brothers. I've done this contest multiple times. That's the most cowardly statement. Just come on, speak your truth. Your truth is when Joey Chestnut
They're not
missed
wrong,
because
though.
he had a contractual No, they're not wrong. But when Joey Chestnut missed a hot dog eating contest because he had entered into an agreement with a vegan hot dog company and literally couldn't do it. This happened a few years ago. The ratings plummeted. They plummeted because without Joey Chestnut, people don't want to watch the hot dog eating contest. I think 831,000 people watched the year without Joey Chestnut, which is down substantially. Like the numbers that the hot dog eating contest does for ESPN is staggering. So I just want everybody to be a little bit honest here. I want the Shea brothers who run this whole thing to step up and just be truthful with all of us. You are not going to kick Joey Chestnut out of this thing because you need people to watch it. Without Joey, ain't nobody watching it. Yes, you're right. Has nothing to do with Nathan's. Also, this is not some big egregious event. He shouldn't be out of it. But even if it was an egregious event, I wonder how the hot dog eating contest would treat it, knowing that without them, and I have many friends who are still part of the hot dog eating contest. I love this event. I think it's spectacular. I just want them to be a little bit more honest with the audience about why. It ain't that it doesn't involve Nathan's. It's that they need every set of eyeballs they can possibly get.
How is this any different than the NBA not suspending Wemby for elbowing Nas Reed in the throat? Because the NBA needs Wemby. They're not going to come out and say that. They're not going to say, oh, we're not going to suspend you because you are the biggest draw in this league. They're going to say, we did not see any action that was deserving of a game suspension. So Nathan's hot dog eating contest is really just basically the NBA.
Yeah,
put that on a headline.
That's amazing. Clip that, aggregate that. You're right.
Yep.
I think fans would go nuts if
off.
any league would ever be honest and just walk out and be like, man, we really need him for the ratings, and this doesn't really make us mad, so we're going to still have him out there. I think more people would watch. All right, how about this absolute dog fight, or should I say kangaroo fight? A kangaroo was caught boxing a flagstick on a golf course in Australia. I cannot believe this. Boxing look at that. Kangaroo, giving it to him, treating that thing like it's the other Paul brother. All right, what do we think? How do we rate this?
I love, first of all, that the other kangaroos are just fleeing. They're like, oh, well, Mark's lost his mind again. Mark's going after inanimate objects. We got to go home. Like, we're out. We're not dealing with this. We did this last time, and it got us in a world of hurt. He is just practicing. We see boxers do this all the time. Shadow boxing, sparring, going against a punching bag. That's all he's doing, okay? For all we know, he's got a big old fight coming up this weekend, and he's just trying to practice, all right? So let Mark live, okay? I will take Mark in a fight over a flagstick 7 days a week and twice on Sundays. He's just practicing his footwork. Leave him alone. He's a feisty marsupial.
The Feisty Marsupials is a great band name. Also, I just want to be very clear here. Mark can do whatever he wants. I had the opportunity many years ago to spend some time in Australia, and I went to one of the sanctuaries where you can actually hang out with kangaroos and you can feed them and you can literally lay on the ground with them if you want. They are staggeringly jacked. So look, I just want to be very clear here. Mark can kick all of our asses. So whatever Mark wants to do to that flagpole, let him get that anger and aggression out. This is like one of those moments where we all have those destruction rooms now where you can just go in and break everything that you want to feel better. Maybe Mark's just getting a little anger out. Maybe Mark's going through therapy here. I love that we've named him Mark. Maybe Mark is just trying to work through some issues in a very healthy way. Whatever Mark wants to do, Marky Mark, he can do, and that can be his funky bunch because I'm not going to get in the way of that kangaroo. Also, the next day in a different part of Australia, I ate kangaroo. So I don't know how I feel about that. One day I played with them. The next day I ate a kangaroo. Well, it was a delicacy. Thanks for hanging out. Come back. We'll be back Tuesday. Enjoy a safe holiday weekend. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. Thanks for watching.